guys ready then?
I'm ready.
Guess so.
You guess so? All right. Well, I don't want to cut the cutout more from the beginning. So, hi and welcome to Culture Illiterate, a podcast where four friends overthink comic book movies. I'm Jake, and I think landlords and property management people are the scum of the earth, absolute leeches who charge people to exist while contributing nothing to humanity. With me are my friends and fellow co-hosts.
My name's Jason, and I shaved my head since the last time we recorded.
And it's a nice new look, although I do miss the beautiful hair.
There was too much. It was too
I
long.
think it fits Jason. I like him with a shaved head.
Thank you, Sean.
Punk rock.
What'd you say?
It's punk rock.
Yeah. Or you could go for the NSYNC Justin Timberlake route, which is not punk rock.
I guess I'm next. I'm Matt Wong, and I actually have a fun fact. My fun fact is the actor who played Agent Zero, Daniel Henney, made a guest star appearance in one of my early childhood Korean reality TV shows called Family Outing in English. I believe in Korean it's pronounced Family Data. But for anyone who knows Korean, feel free to correct me. And if you don't know Korean, stay out.
Very fair.
Anyway, that's all I have.
All right. I'm Sean, and my social security number is 23440. That isn't real.
Maybe someone's.
That could be someone's.
I kind of feel
sorry.
like I need to bleep that just in case. Like in
You
theory,
know what? If
doesn't
you
it
do,
have to be
no.
someone's?
You should bleep that. You should bleep that and cut all this dialogue out.
Cut me out
Just
of
so
the pod
it seems like you
entirely.
actually shared it.
I'm not going to cut out the whole bit.
The only reason I did that was because Matt always says his last name, and I'm just waiting for the moment that Matt gives his full address and location.
Matt gets fucking pink slipped at work. I mean, it's really not that hard to tie this to any of us, really. Like, I don't really. I mean, I think Matt's
It's not.
fine. But I thought you were gonna go for like it's 420696969. Like
That could presumably be someone else's too.
Imagine.
yeah, I know, but I feel like that's
Imagine
gotta
being
be
that
not
guy.
a real one.
Imagine being
man,
that guy.
that's
That'd
the
be crazy.
Dude, that is like the coolest motherfucker ever. I guarantee.
Like, your
whoever it
name's
is,
gotta be like
awesome.
Dick Bomber, if that's like if that's your social.
I'm talking about the coolest person on the planet, and the name you came up with is Dick Bomber.
I don't know.
Korean's laughing in the background at Dick Bomber now.
So I do have a fun fact this time, and it does have to do with this movie. Apparently, while Hugh Jackman was running around naked in a hallway with the he had like prosthetic claws on, and he ran down a hallway, turned the corner, and was surrounded by a large amount of the female cast in the for the movie, and so he decided to try and hide his crotch, but in the process stabbed himself in the crotch.
Is that real?
That's real.
That'll happen.
He stabbed himself with the Wolverine claws in the crotch.
That man's
That's
legacy.
a rough one. That's a rough one, Hugh.
Humongous.
Humongous. Among Us?
Right. Among Us. Speaking of Among Us, I have Rex. I'd like to recommend No, I'm not. I do have Rex, but I didn't really know how to move on from Among Us. So,
Among Us.
Y'all have already, or at least Matt and Jason have already heard about this, but I'd be remiss to not include them. Please, if you want to watch a weird movie that'll make you feel good and hopeful, watch Poor Things. If you want to watch a movie, and please watch this one. I mean, do both. They're both wonderful, but to just really sit in where the world is and hopefully be motivated to try to do something about it, watch The Zone of Interest.
Yay.
Wow, you guys usually chime right in.
Well, I have a rec as well.
That's great.
Well, fuck you, Sean. I'm gonna tell you my rec. Eric DOA, who I've mentioned on the podcast before, just put out his new record called DOA. Imagine that. I wonder where he got it from. But it's very good. He's always got a few records that I want to keep listening to on repeat, and this record has a few of them as well. So Give that a listen if you so choose. Also, suck my nuts if you want.
That's you recommend people suck your nuts?
If they want.
That is a good.
If they fucking want to, suck my. They're right here.
I've been meaning to throw in a joke, Rick. I just always kind of forget.
That wasn't a
that time when
joke.
Sean was wholesome and said, was it Sean who was like, I recommend being friends with these guys?
Yes, and it was adorable.
That was cute.
And
that
it
was
warmed to my heart.
I don't remember
that. That was like a recent episode, I think.
Yeah, it was not too long ago.
I don't remember it.
Wow, Matt.
Wow.
Matt hates Sean and thinks Matt's ugly. Oh, you know what else is a fun fact? As of, like, you guys are officially all groomsmen for me now.
Did Matt say yes? Because he just said meh before.
Yes, Matt said yes. Matt accepted his little token gift.
Yeah, he
I
caught me in a good mood.
That's new for this recording. I thought that was a happy update.
Dude,
Yeah, it
getting
is.
married. That's disgusting.
Well, the engagement's not new. I said that on the
Sean, you
not watch.
are also
what was it?
engaged?
Warzone.
Yeah, it's gross.
Well, we talked about that when that happened. That was Sean's fun fact when Sean.
Yeah, I know, but I was commenting on it because he was calling you gross for getting married.
Yeah, it's pretty gross.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Well, Sean's gross too. He just knows it.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's
I
just
think it's
self-aware.
pretty clear we're kind of avoiding the topic here.
Please, can
This
we
is what
avoid
we
it?
usually do.
I'm not
And as
avoiding
fucking
it.
always
entertaining as the
do.
topic is, I think at this point, us complaining about it may be more interesting than our avoidance of it.
We should do.
Feel
what
free
we
to
did
stop
with the
me.
last
You guys
episode.
can interject and stop me at any time. But today we're covering, giving you opportunities, X-Men Origins.
Now, you know what I was thinking about the other day? I don't have anything. I just wanted to.
No, that was good. I'm glad you did that. Even for a few seconds, I had hope. Wolverine. X-Men Origins Wolverine released on May 1st, 2009. You know, they put that shit in a prime summer movie spot. Written by David Benioff and Skip Woods. Great name, sounds fake. Directed by Gavin Hood, also kind of sounds like a fake name. And shot by Donald McAlpine. Honestly, everything every name but David Benioff. David Benioff sounds like a real person. And everybody else I think is not.
Yeah, I was about to say, you know what? We might go 3 for 3 there, and then you said it before I could.
I do want to say something real quick.
Sorry, what was that, Matt?
Something real quick.
No, please go. I have no desire to talk about this.
Yeah, so instead of talking about the actual plot, I want to talk about the people who were involved with making this movie. So
wait, let me at least
Hood,
finish the cast first, then.
Sure.
Well,
I'm just going to be talking about.
Completely diverge. I was going to let you do it so we could.
Oh no, I'm not.
But if you're not, I might as well at least finish this.
No,
It stars Hugh Jackman
like
as Wolverine, Liev Schreiber as great name, as Sabretooth, Danny Huston as Colonel Stryker, will.i.am as John Wraith, Lynn Collins as Kayla Silverfox, and Ryan Reynolds as Wade Wilson. There's a bunch of other people because this cast is excessively large because they wanted to shoehorn as many cameos in as possible, but those are the ones that kind of really matter.
Cool. Well, I only really want to talk about the director and the 2 writers only because X-Men Origins Wolverine is most likely the most popular project any of these people have worked on. Or maybe even the most critically acclaimed, because let's just say their resume doesn't really impress. So Gavin Hood, which you say is fake, unfortunately isn't a fake name, because I wish it was, because that would make this man more interesting, but no, unfortunately he has a picture associated with him, so I don't think he is a fake man, although that would be interesting if he is. But this guy is known for also directing Ender's Game, which is
with
not that
Asa
great.
Butterfield.
Oh, he also has
Yeah.
an Oscar for Best Foreign Language Film as writer and director of it. So, you know, put a little respect on it.
All right. Well, you know what? Congratulations to him, because I can't really say same thing for David Freeman, because this guy was co-created Game of Thrones.
Did you say David Freeman?
Friedman. Yes.
That's interesting. I was wondering because I was curious because he goes professionally by David Benioff.
Yeah, that's what I have down, David Benioff.
His actual name is David Freeman, but yes, he is known professionally as David Benioff.
Wait. So the only name I said sounded like a real human name is the one that's not a real name?
Yup. Yes.
Perfect.
He is known for co-creating Game of Thrones, and we all know how that ended. And we can probably see why it ended that way, because he is also known for writing the 25th Hour, Troy, the Brad Pitt movie, and City of Thieves, and X-Men Origins Wolverine. So you can kind of see, once he has to write his own original scripts, it goes. He just can't. He can't. He can't just lie in the back of George R. Martin forever. Unfortunately, he was forced to do something himself, and it imploded.
He wrote some episodes for
fun.
It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
You know what? He gets some respect
Well,
points for that. He
yeah,
gets some
there you
respect
go.
points for that. But the other writer, Skip Woods, he doesn't even have a picture associated with him. He worked on like a bunch of films like Hitman, the 2007 film, A Good Way to Die Hard, which is considered the worst Die Hard movie in the entire franchise, X-Men Origins Wolverine, and The A-Team, the one with Liam Neeson and Bradley Cooper, the one that people thought was like mid at best. So yeah, this is the ensemble cast that we've gathered to make X-Men Origins.
Can I also say one thing before we get any further, in that I hate the title of this movie because it heavily implies that they wanted to have more X-Men Origins than just Wolverine.
That was the plan. I believe they wanted to do So that was one of the things that, like, kind of getting ahead of it. But this was supposed to launch, like, so many spin-offs. Some that weren't direct spin-offs. Like, there was going to be X-Men Origins Magneto and I believe Storm. But I know, like, the intent was to do not only a sequel to this, but to give Deadpool his own movie, which obviously happened, but happened, like, completely unrelated to this movie's existence, really, other than it being Ryan Reynolds. And, as well, a Gambit spinoff. I think they may have wanted to do a Cyclops one. This was, like, supposed to be a huge franchise.
It just
Like they finished the trilogy and we're like, what do we do? Ooh, let's go back and do this.
It just feels skeevy. It doesn't feel right because like it's like you're I guess you're making it so upfront what you're trying to do here, and that's establish another like brand of movies centered around the X-Men but their origins. It feels weird. It just it makes me feel gross because they want my money.
Especially since I think one of the best parts of like the original X-Men trilogy as a whole is there's like not too much origin. Like it doesn't really bog things down. Wolverine's origins are a mystery, which I just think it makes him more fascinating than when you get told how he got his leather jacket and his dog tags. I don't care about any of that. And then also, like, I didn't need, like obviously the other ones intended, like, you get some of Magneto's origins in the first X-Men movie, and I feel like you get the perfect amount. I'm glad it didn't happen, because I really didn't need a whole movie for it, and I definitely didn't need... Storm's a great character, but, like, you can kind of sum up her, like, main story of she was worshipped like a god in Africa, she tried to pickpocket Professor X, he recruited her. Don't need a whole movie for it. And I just feel like it would have been, like, right off the bat, that's my... Like, maybe this movie's so boring because it just feels like it's answering a bunch of questions that I didn't care about, and it would have been a bunch more of that.
Yeah, it does feel a bit unnecessary. It's like... I already was sold on Wolverine as a character in the previous, like he was the one thing that no matter what in the previous X-Men films was like a standout, right? And obviously they just wanted to run with that, but they didn't do it in a way that was interesting because they just took it backwards and told a prologue that was unnecessary.
I do take it as a positive of being the worst of the trilogy
that
we got out of it. It did one of the few rare things where they only got better over time, but you also started from rock bottom, so I guess,
that's the key. You gotta start off shit so that you can go up.
Well, also, the other ones, like, pretty much just ignore this anyway, so it's not even like this was led to... Like, it's not even like it's like, oh, the movie sucked, but the setup was good and they capitalized. because there's no real need to watch this if you want to like watch the X-Men movies. It doesn't really add anything.
Are you kidding me? How else would I have learned about Wolverine's origins?
All right.
I wanted to know where his leather jacket came from. I needed to know.
I mean, those origins that you speak of are it goes way back. It starts in 1845, where they do the whole like his name's James Howlett. If you don't know, because most people think of Wolverine as Logan, like technically his birth name is James Howlett. They're living in like the Northwest Territories, and he sees his father get killed by like the groundskeeper Thomas Logan, and that trauma activates his mutation, and the bone claws protrude from his knuckles, which I'm a big fan of bone claws. I think that's one of the best like retcons in comics. I think that's just so much cooler and makes so much more sense within like the world of what mutants are than when they were just when he just had the healing power and the bone and the claws were only grafted on. Anyway, so he kills Thomas Logan, who as he's dying reveals that he's actually James's biological father. Him and Victor Creed, the other son of the groundskeeper, flee. Victor has his own mutant powers, also can heal, and has these sharp claw nails. They spend the next century as soldiers fighting through a bunch of different wars, Civil War, both World Wars, Vietnam in 73, and in Vietnam, an increasingly violent Victor tries to rape a Vietnamese woman and kills a senior officer who's trying to stop him. Unrealistic that an officer was trying to stop him. James returns to Victor, ignorant of his brother's intent, and rushes to defend him. The pair are then sentenced to be executed via firing squad, but of course they survive. Major William Stryker offers them membership in Team X, a group of mutants including Marksman Agent Zero, katana-wielding mercenary Wade Wilson, teleporter John Wraith, super strong and invulnerable Fred Dukes, and technopath Chris Bradley. They join the team for a few missions, with James using the alias of Logan, but Victor and the group kind of continually lack self-control and get more and more violent and lack empathy, which causes Logan to leave. So that's one of the things I kind of meant by unnecessary cameos. I mean, I guess Team X existing isn't an unnecessary cameo, but for the most part, like all of those characters are just kind of could be subbed in and out with anybody. I think the exception being Ryan Reynolds is a really good Wade Wilson, and for all the wrong they do with that later in the movie, the Wade Wilson characterization is really good.
It's also annoying knowing the fact, I mean, this happens later, but all of those characters either die or they show up twice throughout the entire movie, and usually in their last appearance they die.
Yeah. Also, can we just bring up the fact that John Wraith was played by fucking will.i.am? Who thought this was a great idea? And it's not like he's just, playing like a straight man. No, he's playing like a southern guy. And you know what? It's actually not that bad. I'm just awestruck by the fact that I'm actually watching will.i.am in the fucking Wolverine movie right now. That doesn't make sense. Yeah. That doesn't make sense in my brain because he's not bad. He's not awful, but he's fucking will.i.am. When is he associated with acting?
He must be trying
I didn't remember will.i.am being in this because I think the last time I saw this movie was when it was in theaters when I was 7, and I was like, that guy looks fucking just like will.i.am.
He does.
I was like, I kept looking at him. I was like, that's gotta be will.i.am. There's no way there's two people that look exactly like that. And I was right.
I also do want to bring out Sean's point where the Weapon X team was just so wasted because one of the characters dies as soon as the second arc starts. So you barely see him. And what was it? Who was the other one? Like Wade you don't see till the very end, which we'll probably get to that later. Agent Zero doesn't last until for like half, but he barely lasts for like half the movie.
He shows up the most, but then
he dies in the halfway mark, and so like
yeah.
It's just Wolverine and Victor, which would make sense if they had more compelling drama between the two, but they don't really see each other that often, so you just kind of like watch Wolverine just kind of run around for a bit looking for answers. It's just wasted potential.
I
thought
I would kind of agree
sorry,
that it's
continue.
also like a waste of screen time, I guess, because like I feel
Yeah.
like if anything, if there was really something you wanted to build up, I'd want to see Victor and Logan's, relationship. I want to see that they're brothers. I want to see, like, all we get in the beginning is their whole, like, we speed through them throughout the ages of going through multiple wars, which I like the concept of that introduction, but I don't think the cinematography did it that well made it look good.
But that was that's a very good point, though, because we only really saw the dawn of the relationship and then the downfall, right? And so we don't really get the sense that they're brothers, because we didn't really get to see how they built up that relationship throughout those like hundreds of years, which is disappointing to see, because their relationship is like the main anchor of the entire movie, and yet it's so weak.
Yeah, I thought the intro with them in the wars just kind of like, I don't know what it was, but it just looked so silly to me, the way it was filmed, I guess. I don't... Am I sounding crazy right now?
I mean, like, the one thing
it just like looked... I don't know, Hugh Jackman just in like old school war clothing, just, I don't know, he looked strange.
I was gonna say the one thing that if to me that makes it feel like cheap throughout is the cuts that they do. They're so fast and so heavily edited for some reason. Like, every single cut they have, and I don't mean like a heavily edited, like they put a Windows Maker like slide and just slid to the next scene. Like, they like zoom in, do this weird filter on the image, and then they like, and obviously it's to show off the credits that they're doing at the beginning of the film, but it just comes off so cheap the way that
it almost felt like a History Channel like visual.
Exactly.
I think that's like a better way of putting it. That makes more sense.
The cinematographer.
But well, I don't think they should have.
Well, I'm not saying they should. I'm just saying that's what I think they were.
This is where I and the filmmakers differ, Jacob.
No. I'm with you, because I couldn't place what it looked like, and the second you said that, I'm like, oh, that had to have been. I'm not saying it was a good choice, but like that had to have been the intent.
Yeah, because
honestly,
it really felt like that. Like, I felt like I had seen something like that as like some kind of introduction or visualization on like the History Channel or some shit.
I don't know. I mean, this stuff I have like a different but still negative point of view from the rest of you. Like, I mean, I kind of agree that I don't think it necessarily looks great, but the opening credit stuff is like kind of the only, like, sort of maybe the best part for me. I don't think it's like visually appealing, but I did personally find it to be like a pretty effective and efficient way of seeing why they have a bond. I do think, like, if nothing else, Jackman's good in this movie. You can kind of always count on that. And I also like Liev Schreiber as Victor. I think he kind of is like a good casting for like an early stages Sabretooth, one that's like just kind of starting to transition into being more of an animal than a man. And it felt like it didn't waste. You see guys fighting a bunch of wars together, you understand why they'd have a bond. Even if it's, I agree, yeah, it's kind of ugly. The far worst part for me is the opening stuff in 1845, somewhat because the child actors, one of which is, fun fact, Troye Sivan, are so bad that it kind of, like, I know why those scenes are in there, but the acting is so abysmal that it kind of just kills me wanting to, like, it kills that.
It just kills me.
It kills me. It kills me.
Well, yeah, but it's there so you understand, like, okay, they have this inherent bond because they're literally like half brothers, but two, they went through this experience together in their youth. But, like, honestly, the acting is so bad that it doesn't emotionally impact me at all. And I guess moving into the opening credits, it's at least better than that for me. Not as good as, like, we all ragged on Watchmen last week, last episode, but praised the opening credits. It's not as good as those, but similarly to me, I was like, okay, at least it kind of gets the point across.
No, I think it did do a good job of getting the point across, so I'll agree with you there, though I do wish there was, like, a little bit more bonding between them in, like, that, in a way that wasn't a montage. You know what I mean? Like I feel like that was kind of the only example we got of them actually having a bond. And obviously, if you go to war with someone for that, and know them for that long, obviously it'll create a bond. But I just mean like there wasn't actually. It didn't feel like there were examples in the story prior to them falling out of actually having a bond.
I mean, like, you could show me them fighting a war next to each other, but like, it's showing one thing versus another. I want them to show their relationship, not show that they
Exactly.
were in
Like,
a war together because they've lived for so long. Like, they
right.
could have
And
been in those wars
obviously
and fought side by side and absolutely despised each other, and I would know
and
from the movie.
obviously the visual of them fighting together does draw you to believe that they do have some kind of connection together. However, I think that there's more to telling that story than to just show that and move on.
The worst part, it was just shown through a montage.
That's what I mean.
Like, exactly, exactly what you mean. It just shows you the passage of time for them together, but then, like as Jason said before, it's just awful in showing you their actual relationship. I wish we got at least a couple of scenes where it was not like just those two in a particular scene, but at least give them a chance to interact together before they were on bad terms. Like maybe a scene in the prison at the beginning, right? Remember after they survived the firing squad, they were just in the prison cell. Maybe you could just have them, I don't know, just talk about something unrelated that can convince us that these are indeed brothers, right? They are very, very close. A little scene like that would have done so much, but yeah, I'm not going to expect too much from X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Yeah. So the movie cuts to 6 years later from all that, with Logan working as a logger in Canada and living with his girlfriend Kayla Silverfox. Stryker and Zero approach Logan, and reporting that Wade and Bradley have been killed and that someone's targeting the rest of the team. Logan refuses to join initially, but after finding Kayla's bloody body in the woods, realizes that Victor's the one killing everyone. He finds Victor at a local bar but loses their fight. Stryker explains that Victor's gone rogue and offers Logan a way to become strong enough to get his revenge. He has to undergo a painful operation to reinforce his skeleton with adamantium, a virtually indestructible metal, which we had seen Team X going after in a mission in Lagos, Nigeria earlier in the movie. Stryker orders Logan's memory to be erased so he can be used as a personal weapon, but Logan overhears this and escapes to a nearby farm where an elderly couple takes him in. That's maybe the best part of the movie for me because I really laughed at them seeing him sprinting naked in the field. And then while they feel the need to give an origin to his clothing choices, which was stupid as a whole, I thought it was kind of sweet. Anyway, Zero shows up, kills the couple the next morning, tries to kill Logan. Logan takes down his helicopter and swears killing him and swearing to kill Stryker and Victor. Yeah, that's it. I mean, this is also where you really get to bad VFX too. I think this is maybe the worst visual effects we've seen in a movie since they just straight up stretched out a JPEG in Supergirl.
Oh my god, yeah, the hills when like you have Agent Zero running across them was disgusting looking.
Like I feel like we're in general pretty harsh about that stuff, but a lot of the stuff we talk about, it's really just like, it's kind of aged. But like honestly, in my mind, this is even worse than like the '03 Ang Lee Hulk, because that was a situation of like they didn't have the money, or like it looked bad, but I knew why it looked bad. There's no reason this movie in this time period should look this awful especially when you consider there's nothing that's done in it that wasn't also done in the previous three X-Men movies where Wolverine was the main character and looked much better. I don't know the production story, so maybe there was a bunch of production delays or issues or budget issues, or they were rushing the team, but it looks atrocious.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not just, like you said, it's not just that it's aged, because, Iron Man came out before that, and that still looks perfectly fine. All of the other X-Men don't look nearly as bad as this. So clearly, it's some other extraneous thing that's causing it to look like dog shit that is not the aged technology. But it really looks bad. Like, it's just bad. It's unpleasant to look at.
How I think of it, right, is that the VFX department basically said, wait, this is an origin movie, right? So we're actually going to throw a bone to people who watch these movies in chronological order. So we're going to make the VFX super shit. So then once they progress to the other X-Men origins, we're like, oh my god, look at that. The VFX are actually improving.
We're gonna look like we filmed it with actual 1800s technology.
Exactly.
Well, actually,
See, it was actually like
the
they were actually playing 4D chess here. They were basically setting themselves to fail so that X-Men 1 and 2 can live and walk on.
So what I'm hearing is we finally reached the point in watching bad movies that Matt has entered a delusional state of coming up with like weird reasoning for all of the mistakes.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck you're talking about being delusional. You're the one being delusional, calling these VFX bad. What a
I actually
bullshit's
did
that?
read that one of the possible reasons though is like uh, they didn't use prop claws in this movie. So they had props for the bone claws, but also ended up not using them in close-ups because the props didn't look good in close-ups. But then my understanding is they did not have prop claws at all for the adamantium covered ones as they did in prior movies. So it was all done with CG, which it's still bad CG. Again, like Jason said, it wasn't. It's not just bad now; it's bad for the time. But I'm sure that having had a negative impact, though, it still really should look better. Something else that's ugly, though. Oh, sorry, what was that, Jason?
Well, I just
This
think
whole
it's
movie?
interesting that they were like, oh, the props don't look good in close-ups, so let's just do CG instead of just going to the prop department and telling them to fucking make a better prop. Do your fucking job.
I
like,
swear?
it's like one of those things. Like, but,
I'm
like,
putting it on the prop master.
I'm putting it on everyone. One of the well, maybe it's a good thing that what I was gonna say didn't happen then, because I was wanted to talk about the costuming. This is like maybe the peak of Fox's refusal to put characters and superheroes in costumes. Like Agent Zero, he's called Phantom X in the comics typically. Really cool looking suit. Look it up. But I mean, it is just nobody has an actual costume in this movie. They all wear really cheap looking plain clothes.
It reminds me a little bit of like Gotham, the show.
Yes.
Like
Gotham actually ends up getting some pretty dope costumes at points. Not for the Gotham Bane is awful, but some of them are good.
But I just like I only watched the first couple seasons, and like I feel like my memory of that show is everyone just wearing like gray and black and the same clothes. And that's how I felt about this, in the sense that it was all just like homogenous and like no one stood out at all. There was no one, you think about the X-Men, it's all these like bright and different kinds of characters with different kinds of looks. And, obviously this isn't an overall X-Men movie, it's a Wolverine movie, but it still has a lot of the other characters. And none of them look like their unique selves. And I think that that's supposed to be like a main core part of X-Men. Like Gambit, like his look in the comics is pretty simple, but then like, and it's not that far off from what he looks like in the movie, but then that doesn't stick out because no one else looks like how they should look. You know what I mean?
I mean, I don't know. I hate I think Gambit's staff looks fucking awful, and he's just in a button-up shirt and a long coat, which like yeah, he wears purple and he has a long coat. I don't know. All the costuming just look cheap to me, and I know we complained a lot about the like black leather suits they wore in the X-Men trilogy, but at least those were costumes. They were bad costumes, but they were something. I don't know why you can't put Phantom X in Agent Zero in his costume. I don't know why. I mean, obviously, jumping ahead, but Deadpool looking like Deadpool looked, where he is just in baggy pants, no shirt, and no mouth, and not completely unrecognizable as what that character is.
I have no mouth and I must scream.
And Wolverine, like I get Wolverine's one thing. I still don't love it, but at least you can like kind of rationalize like he never got the suit in the trilogy, so of course he's not going to have the suit now. And you can sort of say something similar about Sabretooth, like that, like he doesn't, why would he have a suit? But there's no reason you couldn't have given something to Deadpool and to Phantom X and also in Gambit, and at least pick better clothing to put them in, because it was really, really drab and cheap.
I mean, at the very least, I'd say like Deadpool's is the most egregious because it just doesn't make any sense, and it looks so like at
like
least
Deadpool has such a like good look because it's like easy to achieve while still looking not outrageous in cinema, like in live action, you know what I mean? And it's also like very recognizable and very like just a good design.
Yeah, it's just like I don't understand. I can understand why they like for the time period chose to go with like weird cheap outfits to make them look like they're real world civilians, because like, oh, the general audiences aren't going to care if they're wearing suits because they're too bright and colorful, and we can't really make those work in a realistic setting, or some garbage like that, where it's like, okay, I get it. But like Deadpool just looks, they gave him weird tattoos and they sew up his mouth and like give him pants, and he has swords that come out of his fists, and it just like they obliterate and make it evilishly cartoonish the way that they like over design him and then under design everybody else's like look, that it just he stands out so much compared to everything else, which I mean we can get more into that later, but like it's just one example of like how much I feel like they just didn't have the right concepts in mind when it came to, you know, visualizing these characters in a film medium.
Right, and that's what I think is crazy, because it's like like I said, you're taking the guy who has like one of the like simplest and easiest to accomplish and also most iconic looks from this movie, and you're over designing him so much just to look not like that. Which, I mean, not to say there's something wrong with a different take on a character, but it's like, I don't know. If you're gonna use the character, maybe make him look like him. I don't know. That's just a thought.
It's just
I think it's a good thought. I think that is a good thought. Yeah. I mean, I don't mind changes, but you want to keep the soul of it. When you get to the point of taking a character whose nickname is the Mark with the Mouth, and you take away his mouth, interesting. Like, why? Well, then don't adapt. Like,
it almost
just don't
feels like they're like trying to like anger people. Like, you know what I mean? It almost feels like they're being contrarian with it. Oh, you want Deadpool? Here's
I was
Deadpool,
gonna say, like,
but we're gonna sew his fucking mouth shut, bitch.
To some degree, I take it as like the whole like, we're gonna take an iconic character that we know you know the name of, and because their name is attached to it, you're gonna go, ooh, and that's enough. That's what you want. That's enough. They're in the movie technically. They may not be an adaptation, but they're there. That his name is he's called Deadpool. We call him Deadpool. His name's Wade Wilson. Therefore,
I mean, that's what half the movie is.
I mean, like, and it's also I feel like this has got to be some kind of trend, but where they take a character, butcher them, and then just like make them into some weird amalgamation to use as a villain. I don't know if that's a thing. It feels like I've seen it more than just here, where they like take one villain and completely change who they are, or character in general. We're just gonna say, I'm saying villain in the terms of like, you know, obviously that they use Deadpool as a villain here, but like taking one villainous character to use for your, you know, superhero movie and instead changing them into something completely different. I feel like that's happened somewhere else, and I don't know where. If anybody has an idea of where that might have happened other than here, I guess, please let me know,
hey, Sean,
because it sounds really familiar.
I have an idea, Sean.
No.
We should come up with a term for that exact saying right now.
No.
We should do it right now.
Don't give me that power.
No.
I don't know how to wield that power.
Don't give you that power.
Unlimited power. I mean, I do think this movie's weird because, like, I mean, Sean talking about trends and tropes, it's kind of in a weird transition period of, because it's like spinning out of the like 2000s X-Men movies, it still has a lot of those type things going for it, like the aforementioned refusal to put people in costumes, and it also hasn't quite hit we haven't really hit the era where Marvel was like, realized they could make these things on a factory like line and just make everything really desaturized and not really care about the framing of a shot, and we're just going to shoot everything for coverage and figure it out later in post. So it doesn't have that, though it is it doesn't have the ugly grayness, but man, is this movie brown. It's so muddy in a way that I don't know if, like, it has to be intentional, but I don't think it works anyway. But it does do before a couple of bad things before it was quote unquote cool, of like talking about all the spin-offs it's trying to set up and all the cameos. Like Sean was saying, like they just want you to go, ooh, it's that. Like that's good enough. Like shoehorning Scott Summers in, shoehorning the other thing it did before it was cool, just disturbing looking CGI young Patrick Stewart that looks like it belongs in a horror
Oh my
movie. It's
God.
so uncanny valley.
Hell yeah!
Oh
I
my
loved
God,
it.
I remember
But like
that. Hey
Marvel
guys, remember when I?
Studios is so infamous now for the like shoehorning things in to set up other stuff and it interferes with the story. But this kind of did that first because like obviously we've had spin-offs before, but the Supergirl movie was pretty much isolated, and we're 2 movies deep to the MCU at this point. But other than the Robert Downey Jr. cameo at the very like as the last scene of Incredible Hulk, there's nothing like obviously they were setting stuff up, but there's nothing that's been done that actually interferes yet with the main story being told in a movie. This is the one where I'm like, we're going to stop the movie to show you Cyclops, and we're going to stop the movie to put a really creepy looking DH Patrick Stewart in, or we're gonna stop the movie to have you see Emma Frost use her powers, and we're gonna stop the movie twice for Gambit to come. It's come on, man.
The Cyclops part was really funny to me because I was like, I thought it was like I couldn't, like I said, I couldn't remember a lot of parts of this movie because I hadn't seen it in so long, and I was like, I do not fucking remember Cyclops being in this movie, and why is he in it so suddenly? Like, what, was he in it earlier and I missed it? Like, they just kind of plopped him in that scene, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely get what you mean. Man.
It was definitely shoehorned for sure.
It also makes us feel like it's not a Wolverine movie at that point because it's like trying to show off so many characters from the other X-Men movies, yet you already have the other X-Men movies and those characters are already in it.
It's like,
so
pick a lane. Do you want this to be Wolverine's origins, or do you want fucking
X-Men
or do you want
4?
to set up every other X-Men?
Honestly, it's like, imagine if Marvel had made Avengers first and then done a movie called Avengers Origins Iron Man. That was like sort of an Iron Man movie, but at random points the other Avengers showed up for a scene or two, and they did that all after already doing an Avengers movie or 3.
Yeah, it's like it's like a prequel that is supposed to be focused on one of them, and it kind of is primarily, but then also kind of just plops the other ones in as you go, and you're like, well, what the fuck?
But that's also how the first X-Men movie is, with Logan as the main character, pretty much.
He was the main character 3 times already.
To be a movie
like, why?
that it's already been. With the same
you're
characters that they put in the fucking movie to begin with.
Answer questions nobody was asking. Also, do you guys realize Scott?
Why did they make this movie?
Speaking of Cyclops, he has the glasses that prevent him from prevent his powers already, even though he hasn't met Charles yet.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking about when that first happened, I assumed, because when he meets Charles, Charles introduces himself, so he doesn't know Professor Xavier yet.
Yeah.
And he doesn't, when the powers activate and the glasses fall off, it's not the powers manifesting, because he already seems to have known about them in that moment. So that means, like, he just happens to have special red sunglasses, and how long has he had them that the teacher tells him to take them off? I don't, like, none of these things, like, matter, but I think it just kind of shows you that there's not, like, a lot of thought put into anything in this script. It's just, we want to put a young Cyclops in here, because then maybe we can make a spin-off movie.
And make more money.
Yeah, I mean, I want to talk about some of the real, like, rest of the supporting cast. So, like, kind of...
Before we do that, I just want to say something real quick about the Patrick Stewart uncanny face. Remember when we were hanging out the other day beside Sean, and I brought up the fact
we were in the burb, Sean. You wouldn't have been,
out.
But remember when they brought up how sometimes things are uncanny? They look like plastic, and I compared it to how Russia tries to preserve
Putin's body.
Vladimir Putin's
Oh,
body.
yeah, I said that about Jerry
Yeah.
Jones. That's right. I said that they dip him in plastic
And so he
to
just-
preserve him.
They just dip it in
Yeah.
plastic to preserve him.
And then you told me that
That's
tidbit about Russia, and I was like, well, goddamn, I'm apparently a
Ghost
genius.
of Botox future.
Is that what Patrick Stewart's corpse look like? Like 50
Jesus.
years after he died, if
I don't know,
they
maybe
Vladimir Putin
Some
him.
wax museum shit.
All right, I'm done.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna move on because I don't want to keep picturing that. Logan locates Wraith and Dukes at a boxing gym in Vegas. Dukes, who has gained an extraordinary amount of weight, and because of a guilt-induced eating disorder, explains that Victor is actually working for Stryker, hunting down mutants for Stryker to experiment on in his new laboratory located at 3 Mile Island. Dukes mentions that Remy Gambit LeBeau, who they also feel the need to throw in, who he got called Gambit because he beat all the guards in poker in prison, because we got to give everything exposition. The only one who escaped from the island and therefore knows its location. Wraith and Logan find LeBeau in New Orleans. Then both fight Victor, who worst fight in the movie in my opinion, really bland action throughout this, who kills Wraith and extracts his DNA, agreeing to help release mutants that Stryker has captured and kill everyone. Gambit takes Logan to Stryker's facility on 3 Mile Island. Logan learns that Kayla is actually alive and had been working for Weapon X to save her sister who had been captured, who is also Emma Frost for no apparent reason. Is one of them Cherokee and one of them not? Yeah. Is one of them named Frost and one of them named Silver Fox? Yeah. Does that get explained? No. However, Stryker refuses to release the sister and denies Victor the adamantium bonding promised in return for his service, claiming that the test results revealed that he would not survive the operation. Instead, Stryker activates Wade, who is now known as Weapon 11, a mutant killer with the powers of multiple mutants. Obviously, most people would know that as Deadpool. Though, again, it does, I mean, Deadpool's, I don't want to beat a dead horse. Why did they give him laser eyes? So yeah, I mean, what do you guys think about, I just remembered that Fred Dukes gets the name Blob in this movie because Wolverine calls him Bub, and he mishears it and thinks he calls him Blob.
Yeah.
Blob.
Yeah, I mean,
honestly, that was the
I
most
don't know. What do you guys think about Silver Fox?
Oh, it was just a misunderstanding fights I've ever seen ever. Like, I'm pretty sure they made Hugh Jackman purposely say Bub as quick as he can so that it could be misunderstood as Blob. But they're just
really
so
couldn't.
Exactly, like it's just such a weak way to just segue into a fight scene.
Speaking about fight scenes, the fight scenes of this movie were also fairly. I hated them. I hated them so much.
Yeah.
They were so bad. They have so many cuts, and there are so many fight scenes, specifically between Victor and Logan. You can't tell what's going on because they do the shaky cam bullshit, and they keep switching between the characters, and then sometimes you can't even tell if they're in the shot or not, and then sometimes it'll unfocus, everything will happen, and then suddenly you'll be able to tell where the characters are again, and you're like, okay, well, what the fuck just happened? I thought you were
10 seconds of Logan cutting a ladder.
Oh my god.
That's the other thing I was thinking, while watching it, was that, the action wasn't very good, right? And, if it had been better, then a lot of the flaws with, the script and the plot, it's well, then I could just be like, oh, well, it's just kind of a corny action movie, right? But the fights and the action wasn't great, so I can't really be like, oh, well, it was a corny action movie and it just was fun to watch that, because it wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's really, there's not a single moment that's super memorable. The other thing I hate about the action is they really, really love repeatedly doing this thing where they have the characters jump through the air super over the top in a way that it looks really, really fake. And it actually, the only time it kind of works for me is when Wade does it in that towards the beginning on that mission in Lagos. And because I think it kind of, I don't know, it was the only time it didn't look awful, and it felt like it was a little bit more fitting for Wade, even though I don't think, I mean, at least comic-wise, he's not supposed to have powers at that point. But anyway, did you guys notice that too? Because it kept happening, and I kept being like, "What is?"
Oh yeah,
I couldn't even tell if it was wire work or if it was just CG. Because no matter what it was, it looked really bad. But they would just they would shoot through the air and be everything else would be out of shot all the time.
I mean, The one person where I saw it was like a real problem where I could visually see it was every time Victor jumped. Because like they always try to do the Sabretooth like whole thing where he's like jumping forward and like lunging at people, but then the movements don't look natural. Nothing leads up correctly. The shot then looks weird when they do it in slow-mo, which typically they did do it in slow-mo every time he jumped to like show off, either him jumping or him jumping with multiple people, which they do in the beginning anyways with him and Wolverine. But it just looks, that was where it was the most noticeable to me, that it was like this, something really doesn't look natural about this, and it has this very uncanny, disgusting feel to it that just like, get this off the screen, please.
Even the fights, as Sean talked about before, even the fights are so bad. Even when it's not cutting every single second, the fight scenes are still really bad. A perfect example is during the Deadpool fight, the final Deadpool fight. Remember how Wolverine deflected Wade's laser vision by just crossing his claws?
Yeah.
Remember that?
The sad thing is that's probably the most tolerable fight in the movie, too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's honestly really sad.
Yeah, I mean, the worst one for me may have been when Gambit shows up out of nowhere at the end of the movie and is like so high up to like the top of the falling nuclear reactor and like hits it with his staff and the whole thing splits in half. It looks so. I mean, this is just really half baked, and oh man.
It was a cash grab.
I don't know. I mean, it does. It feels like they knew they needed to continue the franchise, but they realized that X3 had killed everyone, and they didn't know what, and nobody liked it, and they didn't know what to do. But they're like, everyone likes Hugh Jackman still.
I still like Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, that's
I
the
think
thing.
he's the only like redeeming quality they have.
No
here.
matter what, he kills it.
I maintain, like, I mean, I don't disagree with what you guys said about him and Victor's relationship, but it is still the closest thing this movie has to anything that's developed, because, like, in comparison, Silver Fox, Kayla Silver Fox, she's a nothing character, and, like, some of it's because she's gone for half the movie, and, like, sure, I'm not super familiar with the Silver Fox character, really.
I'm pretty sure she's not there for like a whole 2/3 of the movie.
Yeah, she's in the stuff in Canada, and she's at the end, and like it is like a sort of surprising twist. Like I don't like unless you that character exists in the comics, but she's also like wildly different, and she works for Hydra. But yeah, so like it is like a twist that like works to an extent that like, oh, she was bad the whole time, but also she's boring, and the whole movie's boring, and she's another example of they do the whole like she has this whole like weird story about the Wolverine moon, and that's where he gets like, or he could have just been in the military and they called him Wolverine. And Blob could have just been called Blob because people made fun of him because he was fat. Like, I don't know why we need, like, and sometimes Wolverine just wears a coat. He didn't have to get it from the old couple that was murdered, it would belong to their dead son. Names are just names. You know what? I have a friend and former coworker from when I worked at a comic book store named Turtle, and you know what? I don't think, they told me his name was Turtle when I first met him, and I was like, okay. I didn't say give me a fucking hour and a half story about why you're called Turtle. I knew him for years before I knew why his name was Turtle. I worked with him for a long time. Why this movie is just like, oh, we gotta Bob and misheard Bub, and then they'll love it because Wolverine said Bub, and they'll be like, oh, blah, Bub, oh my god. Like, come on, dude. The Deadpool name, it's all so fucking stupid and relentless. There's like not a good like it's not even like even some like I ragged on Watchmen last episode, but there was like decent stretches of that movie that aren't bad. The opening credits, which is like several minutes, is really good in that. There were whole scenes that I think are still good, even though I think the movie as a whole doesn't work. I don't think there's any stretch longer than maybe 10 seconds in this movie that is not bad. I think it's overall I hate it less than Watchmen, but it doesn't have any real memorable stretch. It's just like you forget about it. I'm losing memory as I talk about it.
I hate that like the most memorable things about this movie are how it butchers characters, and that's about it.
Yeah, that's what I remember
but
best.
Even then,
Mouthless Deadpool with laser eyes and katana arms.
So that's it.
Barakapool.
But Sean, to that point, even that doesn't distinguish itself from the rest of the Fox X-Men movies. And so it really has nothing unique to it. So it
Fall
doesn't
off.
exactly like it doesn't even have the distinguishable like it just doesn't have the distinguishability of being bad because what it's bad at is shared in other X-Men movies. It's so
But how did
it's
it like
just
how
so
does this how
total
did it get
nothing
how
burger.
X1 and X2 are such like genuinely solid like action adventure movies that have such broad appeal. There's romance, there's political tension, there's action. There's like like they are a really broadly appealing movie. And then we got X3 in this. Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm a little
I
bit
don't know how you can
we're in
just
a
fall off
bad
a
stretch
cliff
right
like
now
that.
of movies, man. I'm exhausted.
Does it get worse?
You'll find out next week on Dragon Ball Z.
Oh no.
It's a bit ironic that it's called X-Men Origins because it brings nothing original to the X-Men franchise.
Oof.
Yeah,
That's
it
my
I mean,
IGN review, by the way.
that's your like that would be the pull quote like
Yeah.
for like the yeah. The movie gets worse. The climax sucks. Logan and Victor. I mean, I guess we said that's the best fight, but
Climax.
that's still bad. Yeah, climaxing sucks. They fight off Deadpool, Weapon 11. Kayla is mortally wounded because they have to use They can't just keep calling him Deadpool. They have to throw in a ham-fisted the Deadpool. We could pull his power from dead people, but then we have to keep calling him Weapon 11. He's mortally wounded, and the Professor X connects with Scott and frees the prisoners. Logan seems to decapitate Weapon 11 in the PG-13 decapitation, which this movie, I don't think you need to be R-rated to make a decent PG-13 movie. We'll talk about it more in the future, but like I think the PG-13 The Wolverine is a good movie. But this one, like when you're going for like the idea of all this like war and the brutality of the war and the black ops operations, I guess that was redundant, ops operations, and like the effect that had on James/Logan, I feel like it probably would have been good if you could actually show that. So he decapitates Wade. Then Stryker shows up and shoots Logan with adamantium bullets, which render him unconscious. Before Stryker can shoot Kayla and kill her, she grabs him and uses her mutant power to persuade him to turn around and walk until his feet bleed, and then succumbs to her injuries. Logan regains consciousness, but has lost his memory due to the adamantium bullet in his brain. He notices his dog tags read Logan and on one side and Wolverine on the other. He pauses upon noticing Kayla's body and like closes her eyes for her, but says he doesn't recognize her when Remy asks. Then in a mid-credit scene, which surprisingly decent credit scenes, but like wow, they thought they were gonna get more out of this, huh? I mean, I guess they made more, but you know what I mean. You get Stryker being detained by military police in connection with the death of General Munson, who he had killed earlier when Munson brought up that he knew Stryker had a mutant son who killed his wife. And then there is 2 post-credit scenes. I found this out today that they distributed this movie when you go to see it. People went to see it, some theaters got a post-credit scene of Wolverine in Japan telling a bartender that he's drinking to forget. I mean, drinking to remember when she asks if she's drinking to forget. And then some got a post-credit scene where we see the katana blade retract into Deadpool's arm, and then the mouth now cut back open, the audience, and wink. And some theaters got one, some got the other, and some copies of the movie, like on DVD, got one, and some got the other, which is a really I don't know why. Like, why would you do that? I don't know. I want to go. You shouldn't have to. Oh man, because I when I watched this time today, I got the bar one. I was like, I don't remember this. I remember the Deadpool thing. And then I looked it up, and apparently there's 2 versions, and I think that's stupid. Why? I paid to see the movie. Just show me the damn movie.
It just feels like they're trying to be different kind of thing. Like I'm quirky.
It seems like such a weird thing. Like I know, like they've done versions of movies in the past in theaters. Like you have Clue and shit like that. But like, what the fuck? Like the Japanese.
That had like an artistic reason.
Yeah, that had a reason, but like the post credit scene of Japan. Looking back now makes so much more sense.
Yes.
It's so much more. It's such a better ending to it's such a better post credit thing. Whereas the Deadpool one is such ass, and I hate it so goddamn much.
Because it's like, first of all, it's not great. Second of all, it sets up something that I didn't want and wasn't good. You know what I mean? And That's all I got about it.
It feels like a slap in the face because it's like, why didn't you just make like you're gonna have him be like, "Ooh, now we're gonna make Deadpool like shush the crowd and wink, and he's gonna know he's a seemingly know he's a character in a movie, and he's gonna have some personality." Then why didn't you just do that? Like again, I actually do think they kind of get Wade right when he's just Wade, but in the climax of the movie, why didn't you just do that then? Why is it a post credit scene that you have a 50% chance of even getting?
Oh, I love it. I love it so much. This movie is so great, guys. Favorite movie. This is my number one.
Yeah, and like the bar scene, the bar scene is something that like actually, in some sense, in a very short scene, develops Logan's character. Not necessarily develops, but adds to it in some way. Versus like a scene that really adds nothing and is only used for setup that they didn't use for something that, again, that I don't think a lot of people wanted because they butchered Deadpool in the first place. So
it also feels weird. Was this the first movie where we have 2 post-credit scenes, or was that another one?
I have no idea.
I'm trying to think. I know one of the Swamp Things had one. I know.
God, that's.
I mean, Iron Man only had one. Hulk's was a pre-credit scene. Man, yeah, I think this is the first to have 2. I very well could be forgetting something though.
It's so weird because why is this the one? Why is this the first? Like, I know this one is meant to set up so much, and that's why it's like, probably there. But like, why this? Why not? Like, I would have expected this from like a bigger movie where they're trying to push something more. Like, it just feels weird that this wasn't like. Obviously, the MCU has, like, their own post-credit shit, but why is this the first one that has 2? This one is the one that thinks it's worth it to have 2. This one is the one that thinks its entire existence is hinging on these 2 goddamn post-credit scenes, and it has nothing to tell you. God!
No, because why make a movie to tell a story and to make people feel emotions when you can tell a movie because you need to keep a license and make other movies. Movies should only exist to advertise for other potential movies, obviously. There's no reason that there should be movies art. That's absurd. I mean, do you guys want to do final thoughts? Because I think this is like or I'd have to go over the list, but this is like arguably the least memorable movie we watched, even if not totally the worst.
I wouldn't say it's
maybe the emptiest. So I'm kind of out of stuff.
I wouldn't say it's the least memorable. The thing I'll remember the most is how shit Deadpool is in this movie. That's the main thing that I take away from this.
You know what? The only thing I remember from Superman and the Mole Men is the fucking Mole Men doing planks on the
chasing.
bridge.
Oh, I remember the chasing that went nowhere.
Yeah, a third of the fucking movie, you mean?
So funny.
No, I remember Lois being badass. I don't hate that movie the way you do.
No, I just think it's just such a silly little thing that exists.
I'm telling you, man. Give this movie as much time as it's been since we watched that, and I feel like you'll remember. Only thing you'll remember from this is Deadpool or proto Deadpool, Baraka or whatever you call him. It's
did
such
come
a
out during
movie.
the Barack Obama administration.
I meant no.
I know.
Okay, I was like, what?
How many references can we make?
All right,
in
no
one
one
sentence?
vetoed final thoughts, so I'm giving mine. No, I don't recommend it. If you haven't watched the X-Men movies before and you kind of want to, skip this one. It adds nothing. You don't need it for the character. You don't need it for the narrative. You don't need it for any. It adds nothing. It's really empty. The worst part is, in a broad way, the screenplay. In a more specific way, the screenplay's insistence on continually stopping the movie to point and say, "Do you recognize this person, thing, or name?" And this is how it came about, even though you never cared. But we think you care because brand recognition. And the best part is the like 1 or 2 scenes you get of Wade before he turns into whatever the fuck. That's, Weapon 11. Ryan Reynolds was always really good for that part, really good for Wade Wilson. So those scenes are actually the closest you get to anything enjoyable. Don't watch it.
All right.
Here's my recommendation.
I don't think that this movie's actually that bad as much as we ragged on it. I think I'm probably the most positive on this movie. I probably enjoyed it the most if I were to venture to guess. Though I still don't think it's a very good movie, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. Though there are worse ways to spend an hour and 40 minutes, in my opinion. Now that said, I think the best part of this movie's got it. I mean, I guess it's just Hugh Jackman being Wolverine and continuing to just be good at that character. It's stupid, but like I don't have anything else to say that's that positive. Most things are neutral to bad on this one. My least favorite thing is that while I remember very little from seeing this in theaters at age 7, I do remember being very disappointed because one of my favorite X-Men characters was Gambit, and I was really excited to see him in it, and then he was not in it as much as I wanted him to be. So I'm still disappointed about that. So that's still my least favorite thing.
You're my least favorite thing.
While Jason is right, there are worse ways to spend an hour 40 minutes. I could probably think of at least 100 other ways that time could be better spent. And so from that, you could probably know or tell that I don't recommend this movie. I am all out of energy from talking about this movie for like the last hour, and I never want to watch this movie again. I don't even want to talk about it again. So, moving on. Brilliant.
I also don't recommend this movie. God, can we please get back to a good movie for once? I think that this movie should not exist. It adds nothing. My least favorite thing is that this movie exists, and that Deadpool is in this movie. That is definitely bad. And my favorite thing is Hugh Jackman, because if anything, he is Wolverine to me and will always be. So yeah, can we move on?
Yeah, let's move on. The sooner this is over, the sooner we move on in life. Thank you to ALOFET, ALOFETT, for the artwork. Great artwork. Check out Alo's YouTube channel, ALOWren, ALOWREN. Great dude, makes great videos. Check out Jason's music. Jason, thank you for the beep boops.
I made the music, the intro music, the outro music, it's the same. But you can follow me on Twitter, the _UpsidesPA, on Instagram, the UpsidesPA, on SoundCloud, the Upsides. I'm making stuff. I was writing away and recording some stuff. I'm almost there, and then I just gotta mix it.
Thank you to you for listening. Thank you to my friends for being here. Thank you for what I'm sure you're going to do, and go follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, subscribe on YouTube. It is Culture Illiterate Podcast, Culture Illiterate Podcast on YouTube. You can follow us at illiterate_pod for any socials. If there's a social, that's the ad. Reach us at cultureilliteratepod@gmail.com for questions, comments, whatever you want to say. Questions about our sanity, I don't know. Next episode, we're going to come at you with a movie that you probably forgot about if you ever even heard of it at all. It is a movie that is kind of our namesake, The Losers.
This is something I haven't seen.